And we're live, and this is a discussion brought to you by, well, it's called a Cloudburst,
Yeah.
and something Dad came up with. I think it's good. And it's brought to you by Daddy Cast, and you can see all these on daddyocast.com and Ramble Source, which you can see them all on ramblesource.com as well, and more, and more discussions. But today, Dad, one of the things that came to mind when we were talking about things that what the title's something to talk about, the idea of how do we propagate or promote, I'm not really sure the word, how do we change other people's minds to propagate morality.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I was thinking about what it is primitively. What is primitive morality? I'm not talking about the law. If you have the law, if there is a written law, you have it. Don't do this, don't do that. But what is morality? Say pre-legal morality, the morality that, for example, hung over or should have been to which Cain, for example, who killed his brother Abel, should have been responsible. That morality, nothing written. Though we were talking this morning in Bible study about primitive civilizations, and I just asserted, what did you call it? My hypothesis is you can't find in any society, anywhere, primitive or not, where the untrained man,
Yeah.
the untrained man thinks it's okay to kill your younger brother, even when you're angry.
Really?
I mean, I don't think you could find someplace where a man would think, well, for some reason I need to kill my younger brother. I mean, the idea of killing your younger brother is just one of those things per se immoral. That is, we're going to talk about immorality.
Immorality, yeah.
But it's wrong in the sense of what? You shouldn't do it. Okay, what is that? Where does that come from? Thou shalt not. You shouldn't. I shouldn't. I shouldn't kill my younger brother, from anger. Why would it, if it's true that nobody thinks it's okay? They might think, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Or I've got preponderance of my needs. I need this. What is it that prevents us from just doing it? When you get mad at your brother, just kill him.
Yeah.
What prevents that? Well, there's several things. One, of course, is that you love your brother and you want the best for him. You like him. I mean, it could be a selfish thing, right? You love your brother. You don't want to kill your brother because what he is to you, the things he does for you, the way he makes you feel. I'm just talking about the natural primitive man right now. I'm not instructed by God. Okay. And so one thing is the selfish thing. Don't do the practical thing. And I think even in modern times, people have tried to, like David Hume, I think, not David Hume, Jeremy Bentham, those guys, the pragmatists, have boiled down morality to what's practical, what works best. As if we could find out all the ramifications of everything that we do. What works best for us and for everybody else.
But I think that gets into trying to figure out what morality is. But for me, the question is once we have something that we believe is right.
Okay.
How do we get other people to believe that?
Okay, but still, okay. Then you still have to. I got to get to the other aspect.
Okay, yeah.
There's a practical aspect of morality, and then there is the personal aspect of morality, and that is disapproval. Would my father disapprove of? Would my mother disapprove of this?
Yeah.
Disapproval, whatever that is, disapproval. But still, it comes back to, but it's a relationship, right? Would my relationship be turned negative? Would they do less for me? Would they shun me? Would they take me out of their will? Whatever. Disapproval. We have, and we do. We know that we do operate all the time. Disapproval of man, right? people are not going to like this. I remember my own mother, who was a righteous woman, but I'd say, I'm going to wear this. Oh, people don't wear that. They won't like that. Or don't do that. People think that's odd. I mean, worried about we all do that at some time or the other.
Yeah.
Disapproval of other people. What our disapproval of our parents is what we first start out with. But then we end up having disapproval of our family, disapproval of our church, our community, our best friends, all that kind of stuff. And that turns into a kind of morality.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. That's I was actually talking to Mike Elias about this last Friday. We're going to talk a little bit more about it this Friday about, I believe that we are mechanisms. God has made us. Part of the image of God in us is a mechanism to figure out what morality is based on, does it interrupt my relationship with others, and does it interrupt my relationship with God?
Yeah.
Anything that interrupts that is sin or evil.
Right.
Anything that interrupts that. And so that goes along exactly what you're saying, except approval, I guess, is what we talked about is more in terms of relationship. When we, as kids, when we see, oh, well, this disrupts my relationship, it must be bad. It's survival, like you were saying, on a basic level and a
pragmatic,
preternatural level, pragmatic level, is based on good relationship. Without good relationship, we die.
Okay, so over a period of time, if we're not told, don't have the law, we learn there are principles that are in general that keep us in good relationship with everybody. That's morality, your mores. And you begin to hypostasize those. That is, you begin to think of them as on their own. It's a principle on its own. Even if Fred and Mary and my wife and God were here, not God. We're not talking about God being here, okay? We're talking about a relationship on a natural level. But okay, you can include that. I mean, that if as we go along worrying about individual relationships, eventually we see that there are principles, ideas that rule over all of those, and they become morals. That everybody nobody likes it when I lie. I found out, I lie. They keep saying, so I better not lie. So there are specific things that we know that other people don't like us to do. But everybody, the ones that are general, people don't like us to lie. People don't like us to steal from them. People don't like us to be physical, hurt people physically. You could go through the whole Ten Commandments kind of sort of see.
But I feel like there are things, though. Those are the big ones. The little ones, though, the things that bother us. So the difficulty is these days we're not in relationship with our neighbors, as like people have been in the past. We're insulated and we're not dependent on our neighbors. So it's harder to It's harder to disseminate that morality, or to figure it out, or to construct a system of morality, like that. Just so, I mean, leaf blowers is the first thing that comes to mind. Dogs running around. Around here we have golf carts is a big contentious issue. Setting forth a system of mores is difficult when people aren't dependent on each other.
Okay. Yeah. So in a primitive sense, people learn from pragmatics. They begin to idea of general principles. But you're talking about, since you have a set of principles, and generally those principles, we don't do that in life. We don't learn. We do learn some like that, but mostly we're taught. Someone else has learned, and they teach us. So the parents teach us, don't do that. Don't hurt your little brother. Don't do that. Pick that up, clean up your room after you. All kinds of things we learn. but since we're not parents to our neighbors,
Mm-hmm.
how do we disseminate when other people obviously don't share our mores, right? Um, don't bother other people. Don't bother other people. That's a big one. That my parents kind of taught me, but not as much as they needed to. Don't bother other people. Making loud noises, making a big stink. You don't burn your trash or your garbage in the backyard. Don't.
But on the practical level, though, who cares if you bother somebody if you don't depend on them? If you don't need them?
Yeah, it's only. But that's if they're not within the scope of your morality. That is, I think you learn morality. Okay, the society learns morality by depending on people and then learning what general principles are. Okay, but then when you get in this time of the society, we learn it by being taught those things because other people have learned them. But we only apply them to people again who are relevant to us, who we depend on. Okay, good point. And it comes back to eventually it's going to come back to love. Do you love? Are these people? Is my neighbor a person and not a thing? A person. I remember having a college professor talk to me like that, and the person, not a thing. What are you talking about? But I said, there's a big difference. Going with wherever you go, you work or at school, you pass people going into the grocery store, you pass people. Do you treat them like a thing to ignore or a person? Hi, how you doing? And care immediately.
Right.
Care for them, because when you care for them, then the moral principles come into contact. Okay, so it's concern, it's care for people. And really, to just make up an
hierarchy.
argument, if you care for people, that's the easiest way for them to care for you. And when they care for you, they're going to be concerned with what things please you and what things you become a person and not a thing for them. So if you make them, it's even in the Bible, I think somewhere, if you want to have friends, you got to be a friend. People are not going to be friendly to you if you treat them like things, right? And I'm talking to myself. I have to tell myself every day, look at that person over there, precious soul, and I could be thinking, hey, if this person could really be interesting and loving, and somebody loves me, and this could be a really good relationship. I have to tell myself that. Otherwise, like, I don't think I'm unusual. Just go about like the grocery store. They're just things in your way. When are they going to get out of the way so I can get in and get my half and half out of the thing? It's just, excuse me. They're things, right? But if they're people, then you're going to, and you start to love them, then they're going to love you, and you begin to share morality eventually. That way anyway.
I'm just thinking of in particular, say, so a common example of annoying, the annoying enforcement of people's morality is when vegans will often try to push their veganism on others, right? And I have seen it done well, exactly what you're saying, when they do it out of care. Not you should never works,
right.
But hey, I'm worried about you. I think this could help you. And it gets hard though if we own businesses, and if we're part of a business, if we're part of a fellowship, how do there is still a question of how without saying you should or forcing people to do what you believe is best, most healthy,
laying down the law and enforcing the law, putting the law and enforcing the law. Well, that's the question, as we've kind of at least recently against, like in the church, admonition. How do you admonish someone? There's a friend, if you have a friend, let's say, that talks too loud all the time, like me, talks real loud or whatever, what are you going to say to them? hey, Dave, you talk too loud.
Mm.
Well, I mean, that could really be offensive. It hurts somebody's feelings,
Mm-hmm.
So people don't do it. And yet everybody puts up with this. And you think only if they just knew they would, but admonishing people. Now, some things you just have to say to people. You don't mind it, for example, if they are living in sin with a person of the opposite sex or a person of the same sex. If they're living in sin, you got to say, you can't come back to church until you square this away.
Right.
I mean, sometimes you have to do that.
Well, because there are some things that are so disruptive to everybody's connections, everybody's relationship, right? Like that is so glaring. I think of often. I think of when it comes down to changing genders or sex. That is something that is like an atom bomb in relationships. Even we were talking about this. When a friend renounces their faith or a family member renounces their faith, it's not as repulsive to me as renouncing your, who you are, your body, your gender, but it can be just as.
Well, it's terrible, yeah.
Yeah, it breaks down. It hurts the relationship.
And then what do you do about that?
Yeah.
That is, I don't know. I mean, of course, it's beyond morality. It's what do you do when someone says, well, what has tied us together, our faith? I don't believe in that anymore. On what grounds are you going to address that?
Yeah.
He just said, I don't agree on the foundation of our relationship, on the foundation of our faith in God, but there is, I go back to this thing, we've talked about it before, as the effectiveness of the word, the authority of the word over people. The most authoritative word is going to be true, but also in love. People are going to accept the truth if they think you care about them. This is not about you caring about you. If you come up to somebody, and if I come up to somebody who talks real loud and say, I can't stand it, being around you when you talk too loud, that's my problem, not your problem.
Right.
But then at the other extreme, I remember I've been telling people about this. I've got to go back and see it. It's that famous scene where Jordan Peterson says, like, why would you tell people or push your religion on people? Something like that. Yeah. And he says, and he starts to cry. He said, because you don't want them to burn. You do not want them to burn. And I said, that's if you love people, really love people, and not just say, I'm like Jerry Seinfeld when he helped the Pakistani restaurateur, I'm a good person. He's thinking to himself, I'm a good person. We all like that, but we don't want to think that's not why we're in it. No. We're thinking, I care about this person. Yeah. I care about this person. Yeah. I want them to be successful. I want them to be happy, and I'll be happy. How can I get them over? God help me, And it's just delicate. And again, it's why Paul says at the end of Romans, I want you to be somewhere in the Romans says, I'm expecting you to be strong and to grow in knowledge and in maturity, and even be able to admonish each other.
Move on from milk to meat.
Yeah. And he's saying this is an advance. This is an advanced degree you get when you can admonish people.
Yeah.
And boy,
but it's funny because, and we're out of time, but there's a difference between I'm advanced degree, now I can tell you what to do. I think what Paul's saying is opposite of that, right? You have become so loving and caring and you have developed a community of people that love each other. You're now at the next level. Not you have your degree and you can start pointing your finger in people's eyes.
Good point. That's something to remember. Where you want to be at that point of love and humility. Amen.
Well, thanks, Dad. It's good.
Good. Okay. Thank you all for listening.
Yeah, we had a few people watch. Nobody left any marks of their viewing.
No admonition.
Well, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. Something to remember.